Sullen-faced, President Trump abruptly cut short his time at the G7 summit as he weighed the biggest decision any president could make, whether to take the country to war. His aim spelt out on Air Force One as he returned last night.
And then a real end, not a ceasefire. And then
so something that would be permanent.
Yeah, or giving up entirely. That's okay too.
Underneath the White House this evening, in a secure crisis centre known as the Situation Room, President Trump met for an hour and 20 minutes with his National Security Council to weigh the options. The only way of attacking Iran's nuclear facilities deep underground is with one of these, a B-2 bomber equipped with heavy GBU-57 ordnance, capable of penetrating through more than 200 feet of reinforced concrete. The target would be Iran's nuclear enrichment plant half a mile underground at Fordow in northern Iran. Donald Trump has already used a similar munition against the Taliban in Afghanistan in his first term, taking out a bunker complex with devastating effect. The president's social media posts today have suggested the United States is already in a joint military venture with the Israelis. We now have complete and total control of the skies over Iran, he wrote. Later posting, we know exactly where the so-called supreme leader is hiding. He is an easy target, but is safe there. We're not going to take him out, kill, at least not for now. His last message was blunter still, in capitals simply saying, unconditional surrender.
Now, Prime Minister of the State of Israel.
The Israeli Prime Minister has long sought to persuade the world Iran's nuclear program is an immense threat. This was his dire assessment back in 2012.
By next spring, at most by next summer, at current enrichment rates, they will have finished the medium enrichment and move on to the final stage.
For decades, successive American administrations have wrangled with the problem of what to do about Iran and its nuclear program. Today it feels like Donald Trump has reached a tipping point from which there'll be no return. Now though, the talk isn't just of neutering Iran's nuclear capabilities, but instead there is the return of a phrase which sends shudders down the spines of despots around the world: regime change. Dan Rivers, News at 10, Washington.
In Iran tonight, the state news agency has reported what it described as intense explosions in the capital, Tehran. Thousands of people living there were already on the move, heeding warnings to evacuate the city or trying to.
A tale of two cities. This is Tel Aviv, where getting out and about isn't advised. And this is Tehran, where getting out and far away is advised by the American president. Yet again, the threat of Israeli air power has set in motion a Middle Eastern exodus. Like Gazans and the citizens of Beirut before them, Tehranis have been hitting the road. The Iranian capital is home to 10 million, which makes fleeing for their lives a slow-motion affair. That's if they can even get petrol in the first place. There have also been queues to buy bread.
In the queue for the bakery, people were, I can say that people all were scared. And they were talking about the situation, how scary it is. And older people were talking to youngers, saying that we've been in this situation before.
Last night, Iran threatened Israel with the biggest bombardment so far. But the barrages we've witnessed since have been the exact opposite. That said, this was a dramatic close-up look at some Iranian missiles that did get through, although there are no reports of any fatalities. On day 5, most Israelis we've spoken to maintain that whatever price this country is paying, it's worth it.
Listen, I think that Israel needs to defend itself because Iran have some weapons that can destroy us and kill us all.
There is something you have to do. You should know it as British, you know. You did what you got to do in World War II. You didn't think if it's worth it or not. You just knew that you have to do it. That was the right thing to do, period.
Israeli pilots are trying to spare the country by destroying enemy missile launchers and weapons depots. There's no doubt that Israel is finding it much easier to hit Iran than the other way round. John Irvine, News at 10, Tel Aviv.
One might have suspected after President Trump departed the G7 in Canada meeting early, he would have left behind some unity. It seems, though, that is far from true. Robert is at the summit and has been speaking to the Prime Minister. Robert, not such a happy camp there.
No, certainly not, and we'll talk about the disunity in just a minute, but I thought it was worth just going to the interview that I did with Keir Starmer because I put to him the growing evidence that President Trump was going to intervene alongside Israel in this conflict with Iran, and this is what the Prime Minister said to me.
Well, I don't think that can be read into his comments, and we sat here last night for the best part of 2 hours with the President and put out a G7 statement very shortly afterwards, which was clear about the nuclear threat in relation to Iran, absolutely clear about Israel's right to self-defense, and also the need to de-escalate across the region, including in Gaza, which obviously is linked to the conflict. So that statement really, I think, speaks for itself.
I read that, I think most people read that as an endorsement of Israel's bombing.
No, it uses the word of de-escalation, and I've been absolutely clear that de-escalation is what is needed here.
So look, it's absolutely clear, first of all, that Keir Starmer didn't think that Donald Trump was going to get involved. And secondly, that he thinks the way to go is a ceasefire, what he calls de-escalation. Now, the almost surreal thing that was happening at exactly the same time, yards from me, was the Chancellor of Germany, Chancellor Merz, talking to German media. And he said, completely unambiguously, that he regards Israel as doing a favour to the rich democracies like Germany, Britain and America by trying to remove the nuclear threat from Iran. And he said that if Iran didn't just unilaterally give up its plans to develop nuclear weapons, that actually the West should destroy that capability. And he said that he would have expected other Western powers, and he was effectively referring to America, to come alongside Israel in order to achieve that. So absolutely, totally different position from Keir Starmer. And then another position from President Macron, who is actually also more, shall we say, on the Starmer side of things by saying ceasefire is important and regime change, that is taking out the leadership of Iran, is the last thing that any Western government should be doing. So I would say this G7 has ended in chaos, in mayhem, on the most important issue confronting the world at the moment.
Gosh, Robert, thank you. Well, let's turn to Emma, who's close to the border with Iran in northern Iraq. We are still waiting to hear what Donald Trump is going to do next. But Emma, the stakes couldn't really be higher, could they?
No, this feels like an incredibly consequential night for this region and for the world. It feels now as if Donald Trump has listened to Israel over the voices of those within this region who had been urging restraint, particularly Saudi Arabia. There was hope that Saudi might be able to rein the American president in, basically because of the size of their wallet. But it seems that that has not been entirely successful. And the mood music very much is that we are moving towards American direct involvement in Israel's war with Iran. That will be incredibly significant for so many reasons, not only in human costs, but also in security costs for the whole of the region and beyond, and also financially, because, of course, so much of the oil that the world depends on goes through the Strait of Hormuz. news which Iran will have direct access to. And interestingly, one of the reports coming out tonight is that the US have put all their bases in the Middle East, the 4 also in this country, on high alert for fear of attack. That would suggest that they think that should they get involved, there will be an immediate response from the Iranian authorities. Now, in terms of Iran, President Trump had offered them that potential unconditional surrender. That was never something that they were going to accept. In reality, for the regime, potentially in terms of their existence, the most harmful thing would be to offer unconditional surrender. It may well be calculated by them that carrying on the fight would be better. They are promising something very significant tonight. That may just be talk, but we will know tomorrow what their position is and potentially what America's is.